Hi everyone, I'm Lisa Oxenham. I am a beauty director and an industry expert around sustainability. And I'm very excited to be moderating this fascinating panel discussion today, bringing together the beauty industry perspective around handcrafted fair trade shea butter. So firstly, I would like to introduce you to the panel. So we have Linda Artabila, President of Hope Givers Shea Butter Cooperative in Ghana. We have Wumi Oshalake, Deputy Managing Director of Global Shea Alliance. Rachel Tumasi Coulson, CEO and founder of Afrocentrics, and Will Browning, Head of Partnership Development at the Fairtrade Foundation. So we'll be discussing shea butter production, why cooperatives benefit from producing butter, challenges faced by shea entrepreneurs, and then how business partnerships with beauty brands can help increase impact for the women and their community, and why brands choose fair trade certification to support shea butter entrepreneurs. And then we'll go through how fair trade can facilitate partnerships that deliver impact and how businesses can benefit from the power of the fair trade mark. So first of all, looking at the wider conversation in the beauty industry. So as we all know, for decades, shoppers have been influenced by the claims and marketing buzzwords pasted on products, putting their trust into brands. But now shoppers are increasingly aware, and so there's this new breed of conscious consumer that makes up the largest consumer segment across beauty. And these consumers are informed, purpose-driven, and focused on finding brands that align with their values. Now, the latest trend is sustainable beauty, and like any other beauty buzzword, it's getting thrown around by brands with little evidence of their visibility into areas like ingredient sourcing, manufacturing, and supply chain. So transparency is no longer a nice to have, it's a need to have. So shoppers want a commitment that brands are stepping up, putting in the work, and doing right by them and the planet. And this can be achieved with a certification like Fair Trade. Now, tracing beauty ingredients to learn what is inside our favourite products and how exactly they got there is the logical next phase of this clean beauty revolution. Unfortunately, the natural ingredients in these products can easily be very problematic via ecological harm and unethical practices linked to its ingredient sourcing. So it's no longer adequate to claim that products are safe, clean, or sustainable. Brands really need to prove it and take a good hard look at their supply chain and mapping ingredients from farm to face. However, even with the increased transparency, certifications and conversations around sustainable sourcing, the human voices from supply chains are often and remain unheard. And that's really what needs to be rectified. Now, I'm going to open up the round table now with the first question to Linda. Now, Linda is the president of Hope Givers Shea Butter Cooperative in Ghana. So, Linda, as a shea butter entrepreneur, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your work and your relationship with fair trade, please?
Thank you, Lisa. I'm an entrepreneur and also a development practitioner. How I came into contact with shea had to do with, I was campaigning against female migration from the urban centers to from the rural to the urban centers in Ghana. And so I started with just 15 young ladies because I needed to come out with some modules that they could work and really earn some money to sustain themselves and then their children. And so I researched and I realized that shea had a global presence, and that was when I got interested in it and then started working around it. And today we have over 1,008 women because we started in 2011, and in 2023 we now have over 1,800 women. And that's the more reason why we are coming into the shea, the fair trade market, because the women produce and then we are not able to actually have a direct market access or even in other situations, we don't even have the market access because there are certain limitations that do not allow us to trade directly. And that is where fair trade comes in, to make things easier for us to actually have direct access to buyers, to sell our products, and also get the price that we actually deserve for the hard work that we've done. Because when you look at shea, it starts with the picking. And with the picking, women have to actually go into the bushes to pick up the nuts. In most situations, they can leave the home around 3 a.m. into the bushes to search for the nuts. And some end up spending a day or two before they return to their homes. So from picking, it goes into the processing of the nuts. Then afterwards, the processed nuts, it's where we take off from then. We process the nuts into the shea butter. And that's where we have the final product selling out to the market or to the beauty shops or beauty companies to actually transform it into cosmetic products for our skin.
Yeah.
So I think that's how come, or this how far it's come with it.
So shea butter is a very arduous process, isn't it? So why does Hope Givers choose to produce handcrafted shea butter?
Thank you. So the reason why we are into the handcrafted is to ensure that women actually have access to money that can help them solve most of the economic issues that they have in their families. So where I come from, it's the northern part of Ghana. And when you research, you do a desktop research, you realize that over 80% of them are actually the breadwinners. Yes, you would have a man in the house, but mostly they do most of the things that you see. If it has to do with the payment of their child's school fees, if it has to do with their health, if it has to do with what the child wears or what the child eats, it's the women that do it. And so we chose handcrafted to make sure that these women that are engaged in the shea butter processing, they are able to get the actual value for the product that they sell.
Right.
So my target is the women, how I can get money into their hands to use as a game changer to resolve issues at home. And that's why we are not running a fully automated system, but a handcrafted production system. Yeah.
What impact would new business partnerships have for your community?
So for now, the issues, one of the biggest issues we have, it's market access. So to talk of partnership right now, it means we'll have a reliable market access. We'll also have a direct market access, and we'll actually sell products that would give us the value that we are looking out for. That is one. And then two, the premium prices that we would get out of the sales will go a long way to lift women out of the poverty line. So we have, I mentioned earlier on that we are currently working with over 1,800 women. And averagely, you have a household to be 5 people. So when you multiply that figure, 1,800 by the 5, you get almost 9,000. So that is the impact I think is reflecting, or the how it's going to trickle down to households indirectly. So partnership, that's what it will mean to us. And then it will also help us preserve the environment, because out of poverty or because of the lack of jobs around, other people are also engaged in the cutting down of trees. But I'm sure if there's value for what they sell out there, we can have a voice to team up, to know how to discourage people from doing such things, and then open up other opportunities for them to tap into.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Linda. Now on to we talk more about the sort of wider shea industry. Rumi, could you give us some background as to why shea is an important commodity, and what sort of are the key challenges that the industry is facing at the moment?
Well, good morning to everyone. I'm currently sitting in the US, so I really appreciate the time to join this panel and to be speaking alongside Linda and Rachel, who are additional voices supporting the industry. So thank you for the opportunity, Fairtrade, for inviting the Global Shea Alliance here. In terms of the wider context of shea, it is quite an important industry. I think when you look at agro-commodities across Africa, this is one that is mainly dominated by women. And this is a very critical source of employment for women across. We estimate that about 16 million African women actually depend on this industry. And as Linda alluded to before, it is one industry that not only provide income, but also is critical for the livelihoods of the rural communities that depend on it. And a lot of the income that the women get out of it really does go into supporting their households, education, clothing, and things like that. So those are very, very critical things. And that makes shea important. We've seen studies that show that about 90% of the income that is generated through shea activities is actually maintained and controlled by women. And not to even go into the complexities of the traditional activities in this region where women don't have access to land. There's so much restriction in economic opportunities that it could access. So shea is that very sweet solution that women can bank on. And that's why it's often referred to as women's gold.
Yeah, incredible. And what are some of the key challenges that the industry faces? Can you just talk through those?
Well, I think, Linda has also highlighted a few of them. Access to market for small, medium enterprises is one challenge. The protection of the parklands is something that we're increasingly having a problem with, and we are continuing to focus on. So the felling of shea trees for fuelwood production, clearing up the land for other farming activities, that's also an issue. We're also seeing issues around, I would say though, when you look at the broader industry, down from upstream to downstream, that is the biggest concern at this point. The GA estimates that we're losing roughly about 8 million shea trees on an annual basis. And that for us is a key concern in the West Africa region. Should that continue, should that trend progress, we're looking at possibly a supply shortage by the year 2040. So for us, we feel that there's a collective need for industry to address these issues together. And that is why we have the platform, the Global Shea Alliance, for everybody to come together and address such issues.
Yeah, absolutely. And can you tell us as well about the hazards that the women are facing when they're collecting nuts and processing the butter as well, and following the Fairtrade health and safety standards?
Let's not kid ourselves. Shea is not child's play. It's not easy work. I have been in the villages supporting the women with even the kneading of the butter, and I know how much my muscles ache after 5 minutes of attempting to do that. And that's just one aspect of processing, from collection to even bringing the nuts back. That's challenging in itself. So one, you have situations where women walk up to about 5 kilometers away from their home to collect, and they do this in the very wee hours of the morning. So this is during, during the shea season. So the women are, in terms of collecting, they're exposed to like scorpion bites or snake bites. They're exposed to skeletal issues from head potting some of the kernels back. So think about head potting about like wet fruits all the way back. That in itself is not an easy task. When it comes to the processing of it, once you get home, the boiling and the drying, that also exposes you to like smoke inhalation. So that there's a host of issues from processing shea, but I do think Fairtrade is trying to respond to that. The Global Shea Alliance is trying to respond to that, and also businesses within their supply chains are looking into how to respond to that. So we've seen things like introduction of tricycles to cooperative groups to help with the the movement of the kernels from the farm back home. We've seen the introduction of improved cook stoves that reduces the chances of smoke inhalation. We've seen things like donations of boots and gloves to women to help protect them when they're collecting, even donations of raincoats and things like that. So I do think that there's a collective response to some of these challenges, but we could do better. We could strengthen our response and really protect the women that are very critical to our industry.
Yeah, amazing. Well, thank you so much. It's so interesting talking to you, Wumi. Now on to Rachel, who is the CEO and founder of Afrocentrics. Afrocentrics is one of Fairtrade's newest partners to use the Fairtrade mark. Rachel, can you tell us more about the brand and why you chose Fairtrade certification?
Sure. So at Afrocentrics, we make safe and effective hair care products for Afro and curly hair. I started the brand when I was at university. I went to the University of Birmingham and I was studying law there. And funnily enough, I was actually the Fairtrade officer for my university, which was, I think, one of the early Fairtrade universities. So starting this brand around the same time, it was always really important to me that we do get Fairtrade certification. It just took a while to get there.
Yeah.
And the reason I started the brand is because I suffer from very bad eczema, and ingredients like shea butter are so good for the skin. They're brilliant if you're suffering from eczema and you're having, lots of allergic reactions to artificial ingredients. So from my perspective, it was just really important to bring these safe, effective solutions to as many people as possible, starting with hair care and then in future moving into skincare.
Fantastic. And so can you tell us about your sustainability commitments and how important it is for your brand?
Absolutely. It's hugely important. So we started off because I entered a competition for ethical and sustainable business innovation. And they spoke about things like, using organic and fair trade ingredients, not doing any animal testing, making sure that we use things like closed water systems so that there was, conservation of water as far as possible, and recycling and using environmentally friendly manufacturing practices. And that was all the plan. And actually I saw that even though these things are difficult, and I won't say it's easy to run a sustainable company, they are things people care about. We won that award for ethical and sustainable business innovation, and for a number of years, I just stopped talking about it because I thought this was, a weird obsession I had. My friends would call me an eco-warrior. And I thought for a few years that it wasn't really something people cared about. And, fast fashion was exploding. People were buying, anything that was available. And we'd only just started to have conversations around being a conscious consumer. And I also thought, actually, it's really important that we don't pin responsibility for the state of the environment on individuals. It's really down to governments, it's down to large organizations, large corporations to be responsible, and individuals shouldn't need to feel guilty for the things they're able to afford, the things that they're able to buy. At the same time, the more ethical and sustainable options out there, the better for everyone, the better for the planet, the better for people. And typically organizations who care about sustainability tend to look after their people a lot better too. As we've heard, from Linda and Wumi, there's a lot of care for the women who are involved in extracting the shea butter and, actually processing it into something that can be sold. So when we found that customers were interested in these things and people started to ask about, you know, who owned the company, people cared that it was owned by a woman. People also started to ask about sustainability. So in the end, as part of a B Corp application, I did end up writing a sustainability pledge, which I put on our website. And I was quite shocked. It had traffic. People were reading it. People cared. And it was brilliant to be able to say, you know, we are working towards having our entire range for fully Fairtrade certified, but we've started with at least one product. So we've got Spring, our Fairtrade twisting hair butter, which I'm very excited about. It's one of my favorite products. And we're working on more. Everything's already vegan certified, but ideally we want everything to have, you know, the Cosmos certification and Fairtrade certification too.
Yeah, amazing. Well done. Congratulations. It's absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
And
we've had a lot of support from the Fairtrade Foundation too.
Fantastic. Yeah, so why did you actually choose Fairtrade certification?
Yeah, so I think in terms of being both robust and you know, a certification you can trust, because it's difficult to get the certification and there are lots of checks that go in there. It's one that feels really important because it isn't one that you can just buy. You know, there are all sorts of certifications for sustainability that you just pay to register, send a bit of paperwork. There's no audit, there are no checks. And you can just, you know, make this claim. I'm not going to name any because, you know, we don't need to be controversial on a Tuesday afternoon in a heat wave. But with the Fairtrade Foundation, everyone I've spoken to really cares about the cause. Everyone I've spoken to recognises global inequalities and thinks, do you know what? Business is a good way to solve these. Everyone I've spoken to really respects the makers who tend to be, you know, in the global south and areas that have, you know, historically not had the best economic deals and have mostly had their resources exported, processed elsewhere, and all the value has come further down the supply chain. And people in the Fairtrade Foundation, they know about these things and they actually care. And that filters down into an organization that do audits, do checks, but also work closely with people. So if they do an audit and they find that, you know, one of the cooperatives maybe isn't quite meeting the standard, there'll be support, both financial support and practical support. There'll be educational support to get them back on track. And they recognize that these things are difficult, you know, otherwise everyone would do fair trade, but it's worth it. It's worth it because you see the impact. You see the for instance, fair trade schools that are set up with that, you know, fair trade premium, and it's absolutely worth it. And from a customer perspective, people recognize that fair trade stamp and they know that it means you're a brand who genuinely care about sustainability, you care about equality, and you're taking steps to make things better for people and for the planet. So that's why I chose to go down the fair trade route, and I hope that more people do.
Yeah, incredible. Well, thank you so much. Thanks, Rachel. So on to Head of Partnership Development at Fairtrade Foundation now, Will Browning. Hi, Will. Can you tell us why people choose fair trade?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was a great piece from Rachel there, and thank you for all the words. And you know, I think we'll touch on some of that here because, you know, we've done a number of pieces of research into, I guess, how shoppers and consumers perceive fair trade and, you know, why they choose to buy fair trade products. And, you know, I think for me that there are sort of three reasons that kind of come out, they really stand out and come out consistently. And, you know, first off is to the point that you made at the start of the webinar, Lisa, but also you made there, Rachel, which is, you know, people care. There's an increasing expectation from consumers around whether what they buy is a sustainable product. And the Fairtrade mark is the most recognised ethical certification globally. So our most recent data shows that in the UK, for example, 89% of people recognise the Fairtrade mark, which is pretty astounding. And when you couple that with the fact that 85% that trust Fairtrade say the mark improves their perception of a brand, you know, it's used by consumers as an indicator of what is a sustainable, ethical product. So, you know, if that's a perception you want with your brand, it's a great partnership to build. You know, secondly, we know consumers behave like this and look for sustainable brands because they want to have a positive impact with their purchasing. And choosing Fairtrade does that across a whole breadth of issues that they care about. You know, there's so many sustainability topics that people care about and want to make a difference. And actually, you know, Fairtrade standards cross environmental, social, and economic. So we've heard directly from Linda today about the difference that Fairtrade can make to those communities that produce the products that we all depend on and the products that we love. So for us as consumers, we're enabled to support this incredible impact simply through the choice of product that we're buying, simply by choosing a Fairtrade product over a non-Fairtrade product. But I think finally, and this builds on Rachel's point really well, I think that underlying all of this, and probably most important of all, is trust. In a world of kind of increasing noise about sustainability and sustainability claims and companies making commitments, consumers really value certification as a way of knowing that a brand is acting credibly and is kind of delivering the impact that they are claiming. We know, as well as being the most recognized certification label, Fairtrade's actually the most trusted label globally as well. So for a brand that is actually serious about having impact in their supply chain and with the communities that they work with, Fairtrade's not only a fantastic way to deliver that impact, but it's also a great way to know that consumers feel confident about it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And can you tell us how businesses can benefit through the power of the Fairtrade mark?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple of ways. So there's one about kind of to those points there, kind of tapping into that conscious consumer and putting a product on shelf that people recognize instantly. It's a quick way for them to decide that's a sustainable product. But actually working with Fairtrade is so much more than that in terms of the impact and the support we offer. Really great to hear Rachel's experience there. But we have a whole team of experts at the Fairtrade Foundation that really know the supply chains that they work in. But more importantly than that, they speak on a weekly basis to what we call producer networks. So these are groups based in Africa, based in Asia that work with the producers on a weekly basis. And the reason they do that is to understand the context, understand what is going on in that community and what needs they're facing, but also help them to overcome that, help them to meet the standards, help them to improve and produce in a more sustainable way. So I think for me, it's twofold, the benefit, right? There's one side of the benefit, which is communicating your sustainability commitments in a way that your consumers understand and in a way that makes it easy for your consumers to understand that this is a sustainable product, but then actually backing that up with providing the support and the impact that is actually needed to make a difference in those communities. So kind of following through with those commitments. It's a really simple and supported way of doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that note about supporting the communities, we'll just go back to Linda now. So Linda, President of Hope Givers Shea Butter Cooperative in Ghana. Linda, can you tell us what you're looking for in a new Fairtrade partnership with beauty brands?
Thank you, Lisa. Like I said earlier on, we are looking out for a reliable market access. Once we put into contact with buyers directly, where we get to know the buyer and then we can negotiate on terms of trade and how we want to sell our products. So we are looking for that. We are also looking out for long-term relationships. So looking at the numbers that we are working with, we would need, let's say, somebody we can go into a long-term contract with, where we know we have a sustainable market access. So we're looking out for that. Yeah. So these are the two things.
And what would the additional revenue? I know you went over this a little bit earlier, but can you just reiterate? So what additional revenue from partnerships would enable you to achieve?
So the additional revenue, I think, would be the premium that the women would get. That would go a long way to help us develop the communities in which we work in. It would also help us get a lot of children in school. We would be able to support children to be of school-going age to be in school, and we'll be able to, let's say, upgrade our facilities where we process. So that's what the premium would do for us as a cooperative.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you so much, Linda. And thank you so much to the panel. Does the panel have anything else they'd like to talk while we're here, while we wait for Q&As to come in?
guess just one thing from me, which is anyone that's out there that is inspired by today and inspired by the impact that Fairtrade Shea can have with Linda, and inspired by Rachel's testimony, please feel free to reach out to us. We've got a team ready to support in terms of helping build some of these partnerships that Linda is looking to broker and looking to support. So there's a contact details on our website, or you can feel free to find me on LinkedIn and reach out directly. But it all starts with a conversation, and that's how some of the most impactful partnerships begin. So yeah, we'd love to hear from you, I guess.
Fantastic. Does anybody have any Q&As? Does anybody have any questions? Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for a fascinating conversation, and that was absolutely very interesting. Thank you so much to the panel.
Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much.